If you're trying to figure out how you can do better with your money, I'm going to help you out. There are a couple different things that you can do to make your money more available to you. And I know it doesn't sound like a lot of fun to do, but it is something that you have to do. So we're going to talk today about budgeting your money and different ways that you can save your money. One of the first things that you want to do with your money is pay yourself first. I know you might have a lot of bills out there, you might have a lot of things that are due, but it's important to pay yourself first because there will always be bills. You will always owe money to something, someone, someplace. So pay yourself first. And by that, I mean put some money into a savings account. It doesn't have to be a lot of money, but it does need to be some money. However much you can afford, even if it's $10, $25, put that money into a savings account. And the best way to do that is to have it automatically withdrawn from your paycheck and diverted to a savings account that's not attached to your primary bank. When you do this over time, what happens is you wind up building a nice little bundle of money that you can then use for emergencies. With an emergency fund, your goal is 3 to 6 months of your wages so that you will be able to survive if something catastrophic happens. But it is really nice knowing that even if you only have like $100 or $200 or $1,000 in the account, you still have that extra little bit of money there to help you out when times get really tough. The next thing is creating a budget. Creating a budget does take a lot of work and a lot of time. I do have a link in the description below that has spreadsheets for you to use to get started. With your budget, you need to take a look at all of your income streams. Your income coming in can be a lot of different things. You could have your day job, you could have side hustles. There's a whole variety of different income streams you could potentially have, and it's important to know what all those are. When we get into expenses, it gets even more into the weeds. So you need to take a look at what all your expenses are, because if you don't know what your expenses are, you're not going to know where your money's going. And if you don't know where your money's going, odds are you have leaks in your boat. So it's important to take a look at everything that you've spent money on, say over the past 3 months. I know that sounds pretty daunting. So your choices are go back 3 months and look at what you've spent money on, or keep a registry of what you're spending money on now and adjust accordingly. You might find that you're spending a lot of money on things that you could actually cut back. That's what I found out when we did our budget. I found out I had subscriptions I no longer needed. I found a lot of different things that I could cut. Tracking your spending is a pain in the butt to do, but it does help you know where your money is going, and then you can make adjustments to where your money goes so it goes to where you want it to rather than that impulse buy. Once you know where your money's going, then you can start prioritizing where it goes. For example, things that you will spend money on are housing, transportation, you potentially spend it on childcare costs, groceries, things like that. You need to prioritize where your money goes so that it works best for you. It's all too easy, especially nowadays with how much you are constantly bombarded with buy. It is super easy to have your money go running down the road without you, and then you wind up at the end of the month wondering, where did it all go? I mean, if you've ever been to the store that has the circle and the dot in the middle, you know how that is. For example, I went shopping there one day and got to the parking lot and realized I had over $300 worth of bedding that I didn't need. So I turned right back around and returned it to the store. It's things like that that are out of our control sometimes, that doing the process of a budget and tracking your spending will help catch it before it gets away from you. So cutting expenses can be easy, and it can also be hard. Sometimes you have expenses that you simply do not want to cut, or you simply can't cut. For example, I like to have a streaming service. I like to be able to watch a show when I get home. I wouldn't want to cut that streaming service. But if times got tough, I know that I could always go in and cut it and give myself that extra little bit of money each month. One thing that I did do was with our streaming services was, instead of having multiple streaming services all running at the same time, we rotate through the different streaming services. While we're not watching the latest episode, we can't go in and watch the whole show. We might binge watch every now and then. Speaking of streaming services, one of the things that I found is that we had subscriptions that we completely forgot that we had. Now, subscriptions can come in 2 different varieties. You can have a monthly subscription and you can have an annual subscription. What I found was I had an annual subscription that I completely forgot about because it was an annual subscription. Who remembers those? Because I forgot about it and I did not realize it was on my credit report until past the 2-week mark, I wouldn't be able to get the money back. So now I have a subscription for something that I'm going to force myself to use that I really don't want to do, but I feel like I have to because I spent the money on the subscription. Whereas if I had been diligent and actually watching my subscriptions like I'm telling you to, I would have caught that I had this annual subscription and had been able to get it canceled before it had even gotten charged. You might have annual subscriptions that are kind of like ghost or sleeper subscriptions that you don't realize that you even have on the books. until you see that charge on your credit card. You're like, wait a minute, what's that for? Go in and take a look at all the potential ways that you have subscriptions out there. They could be weekly subscriptions, monthly subscriptions, or annual. And most likely you're going to find a couple that you don't even use anymore. I talked a little bit earlier about automating your payments to yourself. So making sure you pay yourself first and automating that to your savings account. The other side of that is you should automate all of your payments, because it's all too easy to miss a payment. I have done it multiple times and it's expensive to do. Over the course of a year, just 10 missed payments would cost you $250 to $350. So you can see the missed payment or the late payment fees are quite a business for credit card companies and for utilities. So don't give them that business. Go ahead and go into all those different accounts and set up an auto pay, or go into your banking account and set up auto pays directly from your side of the table, from your bank side to those creditors. Because then you're actually paying off the bill before it's due, or at least you're making the minimum payment on it so that you're not having the late payment fee or a missed payment fee. With your credit cards, if you're able to pay them off in full before they're due, then you're not paying the high interest charges that they have with credit cards. So by automating your payments, you wind up saving yourself money on a lot of different realms. One, you don't have the missed payment fee or the late payment fee. And two, if you're able to pay off your credit card accounts in full, then you're not having your interest payments as well, which can add up to thousands and thousands of dollars over the course of a year. The other payment that you want to automate is your emergency fund. Now, I talked about the savings account that you're going to set off to the side, but you also want to have an emergency fund. Now, I realize some of you starting out, it might be hard to even think of having an emergency fund, but it is something that you do need to have. And you need to go through your budget and figure out how exactly to do it. Your emergency fund, like I said, is 3 to 6 months of your income so that you can survive a catastrophic event. When you save up your emergency fund, it's nice to have that security. You don't want to have that money just sitting in a savings account. You do want it actively working for you. So you want to move it into something that's going to earn you a little bit more interest. And that might be a money market account or a mutual fund. It depends on how much risk you're willing to take with that money to determine how much money you could potentially make from it. But that's something you should speak with your financial advisor about to get a better handle on the risk/reward of having that money invested. And speaking of investments, the other thing that you want to make sure that you're doing is investing in your future. If you constantly pay all of your bills and you're paying everybody else, you will never pay yourself. And the thing with paying yourself now is you're actually paying yourself in the future even more money. So you want to make sure you pay yourself now in the form of an investment. The thing with that is a lot of companies offer a matching number. So say they might match up to 1% or 3%. Whatever the match is, that's free money for you. So you might as well take advantage of it and go up to the max that they are willing to match at least, so that you have that money into a retirement, a savings account, so you can take care of yourself when you're old. One of the things that you have to watch out for are vampires. And yes, there are money vampires out there. There are lots of little ways that you can wind up losing money. For example, your insurance might be more expensive than what you need to be paying. You might be able to shop around and find less expensive insurance. You might be spending too much money on groceries by buying name brands. Most likely there's a store brand or a different brand that's going to be just as good. You're not going to be able to tell the difference, and is going to save you money in the long run. The other things with groceries is I found is if you shop on the perimeter of the store rather than down the aisles, you wind up saving money and you wind up eating healthier because you're not eating all the processed foods. One of our money vampires is dining out. We both like to dine out. We've cooked all of our lives and it's kind of like, I really don't want to cook tonight. Do you want to cook? And so neither of us wants to cook, and it's really easy to go out to eat. It's really easy to get a pizza. It's really easy to go get a burrito. What we found is that if we come up with a plan for our meals and we have ready to go meals at home, it's more likely we are to cook at home. Does that work every time? No, it doesn't at all. But it does work enough that we're able to get it down. So we're typically only eating out once a week. And then we're having breakfast out once a week. So one dinner out a week, one breakfast out a week, rather than going out to dinner multiple times through the week, which can add up pretty fast because the area we live in, most dinners are going to run about $40 to $60 for dinner. I talked also a little bit about streaming services. It's all too easy to just add another streaming service. You want to watch a show, you add another streaming service, and then forget to go back in and cancel the ones that you already have. So make sure you look at all the different streaming services that you might have that you could go in and eliminate a couple out of. And then of course there's major purchases. Recently we bought a couch, and the couch started out simple. It did not end that way. Not by any stretch of the imagination. We spent way too much money on a couch. We know all the rules with buying things. We have a budget that we follow, and this is one that fell through the cracks on us. So whenever we're making a major purchase, we always try to take a moment and think about it and decide if that's what we really wanted. We did not with this. We were like, oh yeah, this is great. And we had just slowly upgraded the version of couch that we wanted until the couch it's a nice couch, don't get me wrong, but it's probably way more expensive than we need to spend money on. No, it is actually way more expensive than we need to spend money on. So when you're making a major purchase, don't be like me. Take your time, go write out a pro-con list. Just take like a week to pause and slow down that impulse feature of buy, now, and give yourself a little bit of breathing room on major purchases to make sure that it is a purchase that you actually need to make, not one that you want to make. Now, there are a lot of different apps out there that you can use to save money. There's Ibotta, there's your store apps. There are tons of different apps available to you that you can save money on your groceries. And those are all good, but they do take time to do, and they do take a bit of a learning curve to figure out how to make them all work. But if you do the grocery planning and you match that with the sales flyers for your local stores, then your odds are you'll be able to save money without having to do a lot of extra machinations. Plus, if you're shopping the perimeter of the store, most likely most of the items that you are buying aren't going to be ones that are going to be listed on any of those apps for sale, because they're going to be primary ingredients such as fresh fruits and vegetables. And yes, I had to say that about 6 times to actually get it out of my mouth. One of the apps that I absolutely love, and I'm not getting paid by them, is an app called Gas Buddy. I really do like this app because I'm able to look up and see what the gas prices are in my area and go to the gas station that has the best price. 3 of the apps that I like are Groupon, Retail Me Not, and Honey. I have found that the combination of the 3 of these, I'm usually able to get a pretty good deal on whatever it is that I'm buying. A bonus item is cleaners. Now, you might not be thinking that you spend a lot of money on cleaners, but the cleaning product industry in a year is a $260 billion industry. It's expected that the average per person expenditure on cleaning products is about $170 a year. So you can see where you might have a lot of money going out the door in cleaning products where you could actually save yourself some money. The things that I have found that do the best for me for cleaning is distilled vinegar, just your standard white vinegar, Dawn dishwashing soap, rubbing alcohol, and either Comet Cleanser or Barkeeper's Friend. So between those 4 products, I am able to clean anything in my house. It's a lot less expensive than buying the variety package of colorful items that are on the shelf, begging you to buy them so that you can have a cleaner home. One of the other primary expenses is transportation. Now, if you're driving to and from work every day, you're going to be spending a lot of money on gas and car maintenance over the course of a year. Whereas if you're using public transportation or a carpooling system, you'll be able to save yourself a lot of money over the course of that same year. And that's money that you could put into your emergency fund or your savings account. Overall, one of the things I found that's the easiest thing to do on avoiding impulse purchases is to give myself an obstacle course, if you will. So to give myself a little bit of time to cool off on the idea of buying the greatest thing that I think I have to have. So getting away from impulse buys can be quite the challenge. For example, I am a major tech nerd. I love technology. Therefore, Micro Center is my downfall. If I go into Micro Center without a game plan on how I'm going to spend my money, I will buy pretty much everything in the store. I love that store. So I have to go into the store with a specific game plan, a specific list of what I want to buy, so that I'm not going off the rails and buying an extra hard drive, because I will totally do that. Whenever you have an impulse buy, most likely your impulse buys are something that you impulse buy a lot. Take a look at what you spend money on without thinking about it, and things that you really, really like. Like maybe you really, really like video games, or maybe you really, really like video game equipment. Whatever it is that basically you can't turn off that inner child that's like, buy it. Figure out what that is. Figure out what obstacles you can put in place, and then make your obstacle course. So for example, I have to come up with reasons to buy whatever it is. I have to have a list of what I'm going to buy before I go to the store. I double check the list. I have a sort of kind of budget. I have gone outside of my budget before, but for the most part, I stick to a budget, even though it's like super hard to do. By setting up an obstacle course of things, I'm able to spend a lot less money in the store and not have an entire room full of gadgets and gear, because I totally would. Extra money is always nice. So I do a lot of writing, and therefore I get royalty checks. And because my writing's been out there for a while, I get random royalty checks in the mail, which is really nice. Those checks all go into an emergency fund. So I am able to fund an emergency fund with found money. For you, it might be bonus money, it might be overtime that you're getting, maybe you get a tax refund. There are a lot of different ways that you could have extra money come into your door and that you could allocate and then stick into your emergency fund. It's a lot easier to say no to impulse buys and to spending money willy-nilly when you do have your eye on a longer plan. For example, if you're saving for retirement, or if you're saving for college, or maybe you're saving for a really nice vacation, or maybe you're saving for a house. It's a lot easier to say no to the impulse buys when you keep in mind what your long-term goals are. And sometimes we get kind of lost on our long-term goals because they're so far out in the future, it's hard to stay focused on them. So write out what your long-term goals are, someplace where you're going to see them frequently. And then that way, when you see them, you are reminded of what they are, and it's a lot easier to say no to those impulse buys. In the comments, share with us how you save money.